Hello, Smart Money Tree Podcast listeners. Welcome to this week's show. My name is Kirk Chisholm. I'll be your host, and I'm joined with my good friend Phil Weiss. Hey, Phil.
Hey, Kirk. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. That's a weird one.
Yes.
Hope everyone's having a good Friday. It is a beautiful 80 degrees and 100% humidity here. I have a dehumidifier in my basement, and I empty it about once every 18 hours. And today I empty it about once every 6. I don't know. I can't wait till it rains tonight. But regardless, I don't complain about the weather because what else would I talk about if I didn't complain about the weather? That's what we do in Massachusetts. Anyway, so let's kind of dive right in. We got a lot going on here. We're gonna kind of dive in again on AI. It's pretty much gonna be my whipping boy for the next few weeks, if not longer, maybe for the next few years. But I think the thing to keep in mind is we have a lot of frameworks about how things should work in life, right? Like you walk down the street and it's a busy street. If you walk in traffic, you're going to get hit, right? That's a framework, right? Or you throw the ball up in the air and eventually it's going to come down. That's a mental model. It's a framework of how things work in life. Now, the industrial age was born with actually it was a book. I forget what it was called, but it was a famous book. It's like the first one, but it's basically like systems organization. But it was talking about the assembly lines and McDonald's and all like the original like really well refined systems. And I wish I could remember the name of this book. It's great. I'll get it when Phil starts talking. But anyway, so a lot of our current structure of corporations, of business, of life are built around efficiencies based on some of the learnings of the industrial age, right? Our schools are designed to crank out factory workers, not creative thinkers. Our businesses are looking for cogs in the wheel, not free spirits, right? And you look at a company like IBM, which is the epitome of cogs. Everyone wears the same shirt. They look the same way. They think the same way. The old IBM, not today. Today it's different company. It's kind of weird. But back in the day, they were well known. They all look the same. It was like a duplication. Every employee is like a duplicate, a clone of somebody else. But then they had these people that they hired called wild ducks, I think is what they were called. And the wild ducks could do whatever they want. Everyone else had to stick within certain rules. You had to dress a certain way, you had to talk a certain way, you had to act a certain way. Like you were basically a robot. But then they had the wild ducks. Wild ducks would come in Hawaiian shirts. They'd leave in the middle of a meeting. They could do whatever they want. Like they literally there were no rules for these people, but these people were the creatives. They were the people that would innovate for the next cool thing that wasn't there. That was exclusively their job. And I keep coming back to like the ant analogy. If you look at ants, you drop some ice cream on the sidewalk, like 93% of them are going to go to get the ice cream and bring it back to the colony. Whereas 7% of them are going to wander around aimlessly like they only have one antenna, like they're just, weird ants. But their whole goal is to find the next ice cream. So, when we think about the way things should be done, we think, oh, everybody should find the ice cream. Well, no, there should be people looking for the next best thing, or else we will never have innovation. And our society is roughly structured in that way, too, if you think about it. Entrepreneurs, inventors, they're a small segment of society, and they're the innovative thinkers. And you probably think, well, this guy's cuckoo, but if it's not for this guy, we wouldn't have the toilet, we wouldn't have the car, we wouldn't have the microchip, all these things because somebody decided to think differently. So what I want to reflect on everybody for AI is another one of these inventions that completely changes the dynamic and the norm of what you expect. We think of life in terms of a lot of us in terms of productivity. We have work, we have a purpose. I get up every day, I go to work, I provide for my family, I help clients, I have fun, professional advancement. Phil and I get to do this once a week and chew the fat. Like all these reasons you go to work, it produces a purpose in your life. If I didn't have to work, let's say somebody gave me like $1 million every year and I didn't have to work, I'd turn into one of these, useless heirs of like $1 billion fortunes that just, they're all drugged out and they're partying every day. I don't want to disparage Paris Hilton, but you know what I mean. So there are people out there that I would say most of us need a purpose. I would say all of us need a purpose in life. Um, and so the big question comes in is, what is our identity if we don't have to get up and work? So what if, let's go with my thought experiment for a moment. What if you can get paid the same salary and you never have to work? Would you? Now, most people say, nah, I wouldn't work. I'd just go sit on the beach. Yeah, maybe for a few weeks and then you get bored and then you have to find something to do. So the question you have to ask yourself, and be honest, is if you didn't have to work, you still got paid, what would you do with your life? Rethink this question. Keep coming back to this. Spend some time because it is possible that that happens within the next 10 years. Because a lot of what AI is doing is going to be taking our jobs. It's going to start with the jobs that probably shouldn't exist, that no one wants. It's kind of like, you go to McDonald's and you got some high school kid, basically taking your money, which they don't even do anymore because it's all in the system. But they turn around and get a burger and turn around and give it to you. Like you could probably have a robot do that, except for the fact that high school students need to learn how to work and how to, how to have responsibilities and things like that. Those jobs would pretty much be gone. Like they don't need to exist anymore. So the question is those type of jobs, if AI is taking most of the jobs, data entry, things like that, those people will need somewhere else to work. Eventually, what's going to happen is the only employees, or the next stage here is the people who know how to use AI are going to make the people who don't obsolete. And eventually, the people who know how to control AI are going to make the people who know how to use it obsolete. And eventually, AI is going to make us all obsolete in terms of work. That's where it will eventually go, right? And then robots will come into the picture and we won't have to do anything, and that'll get rid of the trades. There's this whole progression, if you think about it. It's white collar jobs, service jobs go first, and then blue collar jobs, trades will go last because robots won't get there fast enough in order to do those jobs. But those will happen eventually too. So then the question is, what's the meaning of work? How are you going to make money? What is our purpose going to be? Is it going to be like Star Trek, where everybody's just, they've got a role and, I'm the captain and I'm the navigator and I'm the medical chief, like, and there's no money, it's like this utopia. People are still fighting even though it's utopia. Like what does that look like? Does it turn into, Star Trek utopia, where everyone, their whole goal is to explore the galaxy and learn new things? Or does it turn into Terminator Skynet, where, robots are trying to kill us? I don't know. It's somewhere in between that scope of extremes, and those are the extremes, I would argue. So it's somewhere in the middle there. But think about what is, AI is going to cause a crisis of identity. If you think about all of the industrial age jobs, right? You think of the mills, all the typical the union jobs now, but the labor jobs in plants. If you think about the at a auto plant where you've got the production line, there's more and more robots and fewer people. That's where it's going. I remember when they were having the shipping ports were closed down because it was the unions were striking. But then you compare that to China, where there are no blue collar jobs. It's basically just a bunch of kids in a room with computers with joysticks moving robots around. Eventually that's where things go. So then the question is, well, where do those people go? Many of them aren't going to get retooled. They're not going to go learn some new skill. And then honestly, what is that new skill? What are you going to learn? Because all the jobs are getting taken. So what are you actually going to relearn? So it's an open question. I don't have answers. I'm posing the question because I think you need to think about this. It's a crisis of identity, right? You'll have, if you think about the internet, right? What did they say? The internet's going to give us all this free time to do whatever we want. What happened? We work twice as hard. We can't control our time because we're always on the phone. We're always connected. Is AI going to turn us into a worse version of that? Or is it going to be oh, I got my AI agent doing that and we're good? I think early on, yes, but later, I don't know where it goes. So the thing to think about, and this is why I'm bringing this up, is AI is going to completely change the paradigm and the dynamics of what's happening in the world and how you see everything: work, family, um, purpose, identity. Like, who am I if I'm not a provider of my family? I'm just this guy in the household, right? Like, there's for guys, it's different. Women have a gender identity. Males typically have a gender identity, and those will get disrupted in some ways. At least the guys. I mean, women are a lot more complex, but basically, if you think about people in general, there is a sense of identity that is going to get disrupted, and we need to rethink. So much like the industrial age completely redid society, I think AI is going to do the same. The thing I the thing that concerns me most is that AI is coming so quickly that we're not going to have a chance to adapt as a society or as a culture. So if you look at like microchips started. There was the Moore's law, which means that the capacity or the speed would double every 18 months, and that was pretty consistent, almost like it was planned, right? If I had, if I was so inclined and I happened to have a tinfoil hat on, I would say that that was a planned experiment where they introduced this thing and said, well, if we roll it out too quickly, it's going to destroy our economy because people aren't going to have a chance to adapt. But yet, what happened? It rolled out in a meaningful way that people were able to adapt to it and grow. And look at Apple. Apple's made tons of money because they got to give you a new iPhone every 12 months because the old one doesn't work as well, even though it's pretty much the same thing. So if you look at the progression of technology, that worked with semiconductors. AI, I mean, if you think of what you can do with AI right now, it's crazy. Most people aren't even using it. They're just typing stuff in the chat GPT and say, no, cool, it does this thing. It's changing lives. It's changing companies. There are like one person $10 million companies right now just based on AI. I mean, it's crazy what's happening. And if you get into the weeds, it's a deep rabbit hole. Um, Now, I started to think about this because one of the things I want to talk about on the show over the next subsequent weeks is how to invest in AI. And most people are in the industrial age framework. Oh, well, we just find a company and we invest in that company. It's not so easy because companies are not easily investable with AI. How are you going to invest in that? Well, what about ChatGPT? Okay, that's pretty much owned by Microsoft. So you're investing in Microsoft. Well, is AI going to move the needle with Microsoft? I don't know. Not in the short term. Maybe the long term it will, but right now, no. Anthropic is private. Google Gemini, it's Google. Google's a big company. It's not moving the needle there either. So, you got XAI. Well, that's private. So, what are you going to invest in? Oh, well, NVIDIA, obviously. Well, great. Well, NVIDIA is trading at a ridiculous multiple. And are they going to be able to grow at that rate continuously? Probably not. They'll grow, but is it going to continue at the rate that the PE is? No, I think the PE is way overinflated. What else can you look at? Well, you can look at energy because we need more energy, power generation to power AI. Okay, but energy is not a great investment. It's this weird thing. It sounds great, but as an investment, it's like you're investing in a utility. If you look at let's say nuclear, you think nuclear is going to power things, which is great. You can invest in uranium. Uranium's a really thin market. You don't want to really touch that because it's a weird market. So what do you invest in? Oh, how about data centers? Okay, well, there's data centers. That's good, but it's not explosive growth. So where do you invest? Well, the best that I can come up with right now, and I know you're all going to hate this, the best thing I can come up with right now, investing in AI, the best thing to do is invest in your understanding and your education in how it works. Because I don't know how to do this yet, but I know people have done it. I could go out and create a $10 million company in a very short period of time with just AI, no employees, just me and a bunch of AI employees. I could do that. That is possible right now. You could do a lot of things right now. We are actually using it in our business and trying to streamline a lot of things that we're doing. And it's saving us from hiring additional employees. So if I don't have to pay somebody 100 grand and I can pay, $20 a month for AI, why wouldn't I do that? Now, as a business owner, it's great. As an employee, I'd be scared, right? And that's part of the problem. But why are you why are you resigning yourself to be an employee? Why don't you go out and learn this stuff? And here's where I see the opportunity. Now, you could learn AI, create a company, create a bunch of tech that people will use, and then very quickly, within a year or two, someone else will come up with a much better idea, and you're going to have to innovate rapidly and stay ahead of the curve. That's tough. Like within 2 years, it's going to be hard to compete on that. Here's where I see an opportunity. None of these big corporations really understand AI. They don't. I'm seeing CEOs saying, all right, we demand you put AI in our company. They have no idea how to use it. There was a CEO survey about 6 months ago, and they said, we're not seeing, we're putting money into AI, but we're not seeing any meaningful difference in our revenues or expenses. And that just tells me they're not trying hard enough. They're just dictating you do this, and they don't know what to do. Few companies have come out, like Zapier's come out and made some comments. Circle's come out, the CEOs come out and made some comments about this. There's some really interesting comments. But my opinion, the best thing you could do as an investment in yourself, which is always a great investment, is to learn how to use AI. You don't have to learn how to code. You don't have to be an IT geek. You don't have to know any of that. You can use, I know people that use plain English to code apps. They just tell this AI what to do, and it'll create an app for people. This guy's he's making like $1 million a month, just using plain English, creating an app. It does it all for him. It's nuts. So it doesn't mean, like, you have to understand technology a little bit, but my point is, investing in yourself is the best investment you can make with AI. It's going to be able to do crazy things. It already is. It's going to get even more crazy. But if you don't learn how to actually use it, and I don't mean how to pull up the screen and type something in, I mean actually talk to people who are making it work. And it's some of it's kind of deep, but I can tell you that it's worthwhile knowing. I'm learning about it right now, and it's like I'm underwater already, but I can tell you that it is completely disruptive. Don't rely on other people to come up with things, because as we've known, like, you can look at, I can take this off. My head is baking in that tinfoil. So one final thing. If you look at ChatGPT, Gemini, Anthropic, right, or Claude, I guess you can put Grok in there. I don't particularly think Grok is all that great. I think it's subpar. It's behind. It's not terrible, but I don't get the quality I get with like Claude. Claude I find to be the best quality right now. ChatGPT is very close, so you could interchange them. There's more preferences one versus the other. I'm not particularly partial on Gemini. I'm sure it's great. They've come up with some cool stuff with videos. But anyway, the point being is they're all kind of neck and neck. They're all very similar. You could say, oh, this one's better, this one's better. It doesn't really matter. Like, if I'm decoding a genome, it might matter. But if I'm just wondering, should I go to the ball game or should I go to a picnic, it doesn't really matter. So my point is, they're all really neck and neck. So are you trying to find which one's going to be the best? I think that's a fool's errand. I think it's a bad idea, because how do you know who's going to win? And even if they do, you're creating a commoditized product. It's all based on, which one do you like better? I like this one. I like this one. Or it's based on user interface. Oh, well, I started using ChatGPT, so I might as well stick with it, right? And you got this stickiness. It's not really sticky, because I use multiple different ones, and I'm not tied to any one of them. But I can tell you that, right now they're not sticky, but I can guarantee you they're going to create a stickiness into them, because that's how you make money. So, point being is, learn how to use them effectively. We'll try to put stuff in the show over time, but try to think through frameworks of how to you need to know how to think, how to think about AI, how to use it as a framework for your life. Here's one. Here's something crazy if you haven't thought about this. Why don't you start reproducing your brain in AI? That's going to blow your mind. It did like 2 weeks ago for me. Replicate your brain in AI. Teach it how you think about the world, how you make decisions, what's important, what's not, all these different things. Create that inside of AI, and then use that to make all your decisions for you. that if you do that, you're going to be way ahead of 99.9% of the people out there, because it's basically helping you make good decisions. No, it's not the only way to make a decision. I don't rely on it that much, but I think it's cool that it can do that, and I can have it do things for me because it knows my preferences, knows how I think, what's important, what's not, my strengths, my weaknesses. It's like having a mini me, which is effectively where AI is going. Is you're going to have a mini me that helps you do things. So why not start now? Take the time. It took me a whole day. I did it in actually about half a day. I set this thing up in half a day. I have a second brain. It's not perfect yet, but I'm working on it. So things like that. Come up with um, structures that you can leverage, right? Resources, tools come and go. It's cool to geek out on video that creates videos and creating a baby that's replicating voices, and that's all cool. But if you really want to get ahead of most people, focus on reproducing your brain, creating an understanding of priorities, processes, resources, stuff like that. I have friends that are dumping all sorts of private information in there because at this point, everyone knows everything. I grew up not wanting to share, private information, but I get to the point, it's like, does that even matter anymore? Like everyone knows everything. So what's the point of privacy if everyone knows it? But my point is this is people are doing this and they're seeing crazy results. And anyway, that's my tip for the day. The best investment you can make is in yourself and your understanding of AI, because if you're at least at the front end of the curve, like, my wife works for a Fortune 500 company. So like the best thing she could do is learn this stuff. And now she's irreplaceable. If they're firing employees, they can't fire her because she knows AI. And they're like, well, this stuff, like that kind of thing. So be indispensable as an employee, learn this stuff and help teach others, and you will become indispensable. So when they start laying people off due to AI, they're going to keep you because you know what's going on. I live in the great state of Massachusetts. I may be the only one who calls it that, but I digress. The great state of Massachusetts has a commercial funded by the state that says, you can't win the lottery if you don't play. For the moment, let's ignore the fact that there's a state-sponsored commercial suggesting that you go out and spend your hard-earned money gambling on lottery tickets with odds of over 100 million to 1 of winning. But it's true, you can't win if you don't play. I'm giving you the same opportunity here in the show. The only difference is I'm not asking you to buy a lottery ticket. I'm only asking 5 to 10 minutes of your time. But I will pay you at least 100 million Zim dollars for your time. We do have some foreign listeners, so if you don't like Zim dollars, we may have some other currencies as well. If you want to earn over 100 million Zim dollars, go to www.moneytreepodcast.com/free money to get your free money today. Phil, what are your thoughts?
So before I get to all that, there's one thing that I was thinking as you started, and you talk about loss of identity. It's no different, if you think about it, than what so many people have happened to them when they retire, right? Because their identity was their job, and that's what they associate with them. I'm a financial advisor. I'm an engineer, whatever the case may be. You associate that with yourself, and when you stop working, you lose that identity. And honestly, you can say you're not. Same thing happens, right? If you've been good at saving for retirement, you use those retirement funds that you've accumulated to pay yourself during retirement. So it's almost like what you're talking about. That's what happens when we retire. I think there's a really good parallel or analogy between the two. I mean, in terms of AI in general, I'm sure that what you're doing with this, with the course and the studying that you're doing is going further than I. But I mean, I know it's important. I know that I include it in my business. There's lots of different ways that I use it. I use it personally. I mean, I've used it for simple things as simple as I do the cooking in my house. And one night we hadn't been to the store and there was just a few things. And I went into AI and I said, here's the ingredients I have. Suggest 3 healthy meals that I can cook for dinner tonight. And it gave me back something and I made one of them and it was fine. Like I made my own modifications, but it just it helped me with the creative thought that I needed to figure out, like, how could I put those things together to make something that we would enjoy eating? We've used it. I had my wife use it. She had never used AI before, my wife. And she's trying to plan our trip this summer. And I told her to go into AI and tell AI that you're my travel agent. And this is where I'm going. These are some of the things that we like to do. create an itinerary for us. There's lots of things that you can use AI for, whether they be for business or your personal life. It is something that's becoming more and more important to know how to use it. And it's not that hard to use. Just have I think it's more a willingness to use it than it is difficulty in using it. And there are jobs that are going to be replaced by AI because some of these jobs hopefully are jobs that people don't want, but there's still going to be a lot of jobs like the human interaction part. That's the hard part for AI to duplicate. But the rest of it, there's so many things that all of us do that could be replaced by AI if the tools are there and they have the right inputs. It it can get to know you. I mean, you can give it a lot of information. Like you said, I haven't thought about trying to recreate my brain, but there's certain parts of it that I've tried to recreate. So don't shy away from using AI. Don't be afraid of it, but use it and find out ways that you can use it for your benefit. I don't think there's any reason not to do that. I think if you don't, you're going to end up being behind.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting thought process as we kind of think about where things are going. AI and robots will be doing our work. Think about what's valuable, right? Like what's going to be valuable in the future. And this is longer term thinking, but when we talk about trends, what's going to be valuable? Well, um, you're going to have 3D printing. They'll be able to 3D print houses, pretty much 3D print anything in the future because it's not there yet, but that's where it's eventually going. You're going to be able to 3D print a lot of stuff. So,
I mean,
um,
I've read on that. I mean, I've read that they've done it with body parts.
yeah,
They 3D printed body parts and they have then put them into inside people's bodies. Like they've started to do that. So, I mean, think about that use and what
that's
it has on the transplanting. Like if you don't need to transplant, if you can manufacture something at 3D and do that, I mean, that would be monumental if they can do things like that.
uh,
And they've
the
started.
the ethical questions around that are crazy. I mean,
Yes.
I'm with you. I actually just listened to a podcast where they were talking about, editing genes. Like where do you draw the line? One guy who did this with, I guess he was a Chinese scientist who was the first one to edit human genes, and he removed like some sort of HIV gene or something like that, and like the community completely chastised him globally. Which I think was smart because I don't think we want people doing that quite yet because we're not ready for it. But I do find it interesting. Like the conversation was around, well, okay, if you knew your baby was going to be born, with a really bad gene, you have some gene in genetic code and you pass it on. And you're like, oh, that'd be unfortunate. That person could have an unfortunate life. The question is, just should you change it? Is making that baby's life harder a good thing? Because challenge is what makes us ourselves, right? Is what makes us who we are. If you're never challenged, you never become who you should be. When you're challenged, it shows you who you really are. There's a quote in the movie Wall Street, when Bud Fox is about to walk into the firing line at the end of the movie, and the old guy, the old guru guy, kind of comes up to me. He's like, "Man stares into abyss. He looks in and sees nothing back. That's when man finds his character." And I didn't get it for like the first 1,000 times I watched the movie, but like, I think 10 years ago I got it. And I'm like, ooh, that's deep. Like that's really, because the reality is when you're at your worst, at your lowest, that's when you find your character. Who are you when you're at your worst? So putting people in situations where they're challenged by something makes them a better person. Um, I know with my kids, one of them is more significantly challenged than the other, and you could tell the outcome is very very different. And so, one question is, do you do that? Like, should you do it? Should it be allowed? Should you do it? And then question is, should you? I mean, if the kid wasn't going to survive, I'd say, okay, it's probably worth doing. But like, where's the line? Like, where do you draw the line? Right? Is
Mhm.
do you draw the line and say, well, actually, having blue eyes is a bad thing. They should be brown, so I want my kid to have brown eyes. And so there's no easy answer. Like, who's going to be the arbiter? Who's going to be the policeman of all this stuff? So it's a weird rabbit hole. But the same rabbit hole applies for AI too, because we're in this place where I've been watching a lot of interviews with AI experts, and some people are just permables. They're like, oh, it's great, it's going to change the world, and you can tell like this person hasn't maybe they've thought about the bad stuff, but it's like they're a cheerleader. Yay, yay, jish kumbah, yeah, go AI. Like, I don't want to hear that. Just like I don't want to hear somebody tell me that the Terminators are going to rise tomorrow because of AI. Like, the extremists. There's we call it kind of like, apocalypse porn, because people just can't get enough of it. They just can't stop. And it's kind of like one of those things that you have to really pull yourself out of that, because it's real. Human beings really find it easy to go to like the extremes, like, oh, this is what's going to happen. And of course, it rarely ever does. So I find it hard to think through what the future is going to look like. And the more I understand, the harder it is to see what that's going to look like. And I think the best you can do is just prepare yourself by learning, and just by learning new skills. I'm trying to get my kids this summer to learn AI, like just understand how it works and how to think. And I don't want them to use it because they're in school. I don't want them to cheat. I want them to actually learn stuff. But I want to teach them how to think about things so that they understand the skill set, so that it's something that's valuable as they grow up. But then also I worry, like, is college going to be a thing in 5 years? I don't know. Like, where people going to go to college? Because what are you going to be learning? You can just go to AI and do it. That's what kids are doing now. Anyway, so move on to other topics. But I do think I want to keep coming back to this. So the one thing I will say before we kind of move on is, the one thing that will be valuable, and it always is, land. So no matter what happens, 3D printing houses, AI, whatever, there will be a value in having land, because they're not making any more of it, and you can do whatever you want on your own land, at least as of this moment. Maybe not in all states, but most of them. And you can do what you want. So maybe having a good plot of land is the answer for, what it actually has value in the future. Because maybe electricity, because I've seen some cool stuff, maybe electricity is borderline free. And that's going to really mess up the economy too. So you think about these big things, they can't roll it out because it would completely destroy the economy. So they have to be slowly rolled out. And if that's the case, like, what does that look like? I don't know. If you could use as much energy you want, what does that look like? What's our purpose? These are bigger questions, but I do want everyone to think about them, because if you don't think about them, then when things do change, you're going to get really anxious. Your brain is going to shut down. This is what happens when big things happen. This is another reason why things aren't rolled out too quickly, because people's brain shuts down. It's too much. It's overwhelming. I don't want to think about it. Like, let someone else think about it. That's part of the problem. So I would say learn as much as you can now. Try to stay up with it if you can. Become a indispensable employee wherever you are with AI, because it will do wonders for your value as an employee and your longevity, in my opinion. So let's get into some practical stuff. Where do you want to start, Phil? There's so much going on in the world. Do you want to talk about the biggest divorce in
The bromance.
the bromance breakup? Yeah, or
Yeah.
should we talk about jobs, or what do you want to talk about? There's so much to talk about.
But let's talk a little bit. We can talk about the bromance first.
Okay.
So it seemed inevitable to me, at least, that Trump and Musk were not going to stay buddies forever. It's just that just didn't seem possible. And we've heard rumblings over the past week or two from Musk where he's complained about a few things. Like he's had some comments about the tax bill and some other things. And it seemed to really come to a head yesterday. And it resulted in a big drop in Tesla stock, and went down to, I think it was $150 billion in market cap, which is like a record one-day loss. It's recovered some of that today. It's all kind of interesting to me when you think about the fact that Musk helped finance a lot of things that helped Trump get elected. They were working together, and now I saw that. I think the last I saw was that Trump wasn't going to accept whatever apology Musk was going to make. It's like, it doesn't seem like it should all be part of the equation, but it feels like it is right now. And I don't know what's going to come of it, but it's just, like I said, it seemed inevitable that it was going to happen. And the market, at least Tesla stock, has reacted to it. No, not the market itself hasn't really been affected by it. It's really been Tesla more than anything else, because look at the market today, it's up. but the tax bill, I mean, without getting into political things, I mean, there are reasons to be concerned when we think about the fact that it's going to cost money, right? And everybody knows that. And where's the growth going to come from to offset it? I think that's obviously the big debate.
Yeah, I so I have a different perspective. I think that most people. So we haven't talked about this on the show for a while, but there's this concept called second level thinking. And Howard Marks is really one of the ones to really push this early on.
Yes.
So the concept of second level thinking is it's like this. It's like when Rumsfeld came out and talked about the unintended consequences. There's the known knowns, there's the known unknowns, and then there's the unknown unknowns. Like it's a deeper level of thinking that's required to look at a situation. So let me give you a perfect example. I don't know if you remember this, Phil, but back when Elon said, I'm going to buy Twitter, right? Remember that? It was
Mm-hmm.
like, what, a year and a half ago? So I'm going to buy Twitter. And people flipped out. They're like, oh my God, you can't buy Twitter. It's you can't do this. And, blah, 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 blah. And people were freaking out like, you can't do this. And, it's the people who basically had their little piece of the pie, their little fiefdom. Like all the people who had something to lose were freaking out. Oh my God, this is going to be crazy. He's going to ruin it. And, he's a Nazi and all this stuff, right? It's all BS. It's all propaganda. But that was basically trying to tell people, like, it's a bad idea. You shouldn't support this. Well, there's nothing people could do, right? He's taking it private. Anyone could do it. I could do that if I had enough money. I just don't, So, so he took it private. So what happened in that process? People were beating on him, beating on him, beating on him. He did something that I haven't heard more than one or two other people pick up on this. He did something that was absolutely brilliant. In the middle of that process, when he was getting beat on by everybody, he said, I've looked at the numbers and I don't want it. It's too expensive. I've way overpaid for this. And he came out with his laundry list of things, blah, 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 blah. Oh, this is terrible. Like, this company's horrendous. It's going to zero. Like, he totally trashed the company. Then what happened? What did the media do? Do you remember, Phil?
I remember when he said that. I mean, I thought that there was a lot of conversation about whether or not the deal was now going to go through or not. Like that's what I remember most when all that happened, is there was a lot of controversy about whether or not the deal was going to go through. Could he back out? Those kind of things.
So here's what I remember about that. I remember this vividly, because what happened was he came out and said, I don't want it. It's too expensive. It's all trash. It's all bots. Like, he came up with a lot of excuses, which I think were probably valid. He's like, it's totally not worth this. So what did all the people that were yelling at him before do? They swapped sides. No, you have to take it. You have to take it. You have to take it. No, you can't back out. This is, you can't. I mean, it was the most brilliant PR move I've ever seen. He basically took all his haters and switched it so they were forcing him to buy it. When they initially, it's not that they were against him buying it, they were against him. So this is why when we talk about the news is propaganda, it's this stuff. It's the stuff that you don't see. It's the second level thinking that you never notice because it's done so masterfully publicly. So he switched sides. And he's like, I don't want it. Everybody's like, no, you got to take it. You got to take this trash. I want you to go bankrupt, because everyone wants the guy who's ahead. Everyone wants the winner to fall. The biggest to lose. So like, oh yeah, it's going to crush him. He's going to go bankrupt and all this stuff. And what happened? Snapped it up, closed it, no problem. No one was complaining. He snuffed out all the opposition by trying to get out of the deal, quote unquote, get out of the deal. He wasn't going to get out of the deal, but that was his way of doing. I mean, it was absolutely brilliant. And if somebody tells me he absolutely didn't come up with that, I don't know if I wouldn't believe you. I mean, Musk is a brilliant guy, right? So if anyone would come up with this, it would be him. But I thought it was absolutely brilliant. So anyway, the point being is that's second level thinking. That's not trying to put a square peg in a round hole. That's saying, how do we solve this problem so I get everything I want? People like Musk, people like Trump are masters at doing that. They're masters at them giving they're masters at you giving them what they want and you thinking that you won. They're absolute masters at this. And you have to see this. You have to watch for it. You won't notice it unless you're watching for it. But anyway, so second level thinking. So I see this. Musk wanted Trump to win. He supported his campaign, right, and all that, and they're buddies. And then they start doing actual work, right? Hey, I did Doge, and I didn't. I came up with 10% of what I said I would do, or like not even like 7% of what I said I could get. And I wasn't happy at that. I was like, you got to be kidding me. You said two. Okay, I could go with one, but 160 billion. That's ridiculous. That's all you can find. I'm pissed personally. I feel like I was taken. Like you took advantage of me with that statement, and you didn't come up with what you did. So I don't know if he could have come up with more, but I don't feel like he did a good job. Okay, and I'm calling it out because before the election and after the election, I've told everybody I was a supporter of Trump, not because I love Trump, but because the other solution was so horrendous. It would be borderline like, we're going to turn into Zimbabwe kind of scenario. So I just think the Democrats were just the party, not the people. The party was a disaster. Okay, the people. I love the Democrats. I have a lot of friends that are Democrats, but the party itself was gaslighting their own party, lying. It was terrible. So I had a problem with that. And Trump was speaking to the populace. He was speaking what everybody wanted, and as long as he makes good on the deals, then I'm good. But if he starts not doing it, then you're just every other politician. So at the moment, I'm not happy with Musk because he didn't come up with what he said he would. Even if it was a trillion, I'd be happy. But it came up with like 7% of what their goal was. That's horrendous, right? He did a better job at Twitter than he did with Doge. Second part is the big beautiful bill is big. It's beautiful if you like spending money. Not for somebody like me. I think I think it's fine. I like some of the stuff, but the fact that you can't go and save money, I'm kind of pissed. I haven't seen all the pork, but I'm sure it's in there. I haven't even bothered. I wait till it's close to done before I start
Me too.
throwing darts at it. But at the moment, it's like, come on, you can't do better than that. Like, we are never. If this is the best we can do, so if Trump and Musk, the team, the dream team, if the best we can do is save 160 billion and we still add back on a ton of pork through trillions of dollars through the next bill, what good did Musk do anyway? Which I know is his objection, but I think it's not one side. It's not Musk versus Trump. It's like they both kind of are underwhelming me with my expectations, and I'm sure a lot of other people. So if you think about it, we're toast. My deadline of early to mid 2030s is still the brick wall that we're going to hit. If we don't fix our stuff by then, we're all done. And not just us, the globe. It's everyone has the same problem. So anyway, long-term picture, something to keep in mind. But second level thinking, and I also look at it and say, is this public divorce actually going on, or is it just PR? And I don't know. And I just say this speculatively because anytime you see something publicly, you always have to wonder, is this for show? Because Trump is a showman. Remember, Trump is a great showman. He's like, who is the guy, the greatest showman? What was that guy's name?
From Ringling Brothers and Bailey.
No, was it him? The guy from the movie, The Greatest Showman.
Yeah.
Was like,
it was supposed to be from the guys from the circus. Yeah, Ringling Brothers.
I can't remember. Anyway,
I forget his name in the movie
there's
too.
like a great salesman, like old school.
Yeah.
Anyway, so great showman. Like, he understands the game. He understands TV, understands politics. He understands how to work a crowd. You got to give him credit. You might not like him, might not like his policies, but you got to give him credit where credit's due, right? Like, I didn't like a lot of things about Obama. I didn't like a lot of things about Clinton. I didn't like a lot of things about Bush. I didn't like, like, I go on and on, but there's some things I have to give them respect for. Like, like Clinton, you couldn't not like the guy. Like, everyone loved him. Even if you hated him, you loved him because he had such a a big charisma about him that everyone who met him was just like enamored with his charisma. Right. So you just have to give people their due, even though you don't like them. Right. You have to be able to separate your opinion about their outcome and your opinion about the person and their opinion about their skill. Right. So, like, for instance, and I hate to bring this up, but like somebody like Hitler, right? Like, he's like despised as like the worst person ever to walk the planet. I'm sure there are worse people, but he was pretty bad, right? But you have to he had certain skills that you say, he was actually very skilled in that area, even though he was a monster, right? You have to be able to separate those two ideas. You can't separate those two ideas, and you're still in your first level thinking, and you're going to get stuck, and you're not going to see what's going on in the world. And like I said, there's a difference between liking somebody and respecting their skill, right? There's certain people have skills, even though they're used for bad purposes. So to be clear, so if you understand like investing, you understand what's going on in the news. You have to be able to see like what's being said versus what's actually happening. So here's what I wonder. Elon Musk has been going through all of the government stuff with his team of engineers and looking through stuff. How much data does he have? Is that going to turn into AI that's going to make the government efficient? Is who owns that data? Who has the ability to use it? I'm not saying he has it because I don't know the answer to this, and I'm not speculating. It's a question I have in my mind because I don't have an answer. Who has that data? Will they be able to turn that data into something very valuable, which will save us a lot of money? That's a really good question, right? Because if Elon was doing that, and that was the point of Doge, is to do that, then I would still be supportive of it. Because not saving 160 billion, let's be honest, there's a lot of hands out right now that, if you cut the CIA's black budget, you might not survive another week. Like that stuff happens, in my opinion. Once again, tinfoil hat. I can't prove any of this, but, let's just say the facts allude to a certain conclusion, which no one else agrees to. But the point being is you have to be able to think in these other levels beyond what is right in front of your face. So the question is right now there's the bromance is breaking up, but is that a permanent thing? Is it temporary? Are they trying to manipulate Congress to get their way? I don't know. Like this is all stuff that happens every day in politics. And now Musk is in politics because that's where his head's at. So anyway, I just wanted to talk that through as an example. I know we're gonna kind of wrap it up here, but I think it's a good week for mental models and mindsets to really help think through these problems because this summer will slow down a little bit for the investing world. I know Trump wants lower interest rates. I'm going to say this speculation again, and I'm going to turn over to Phil to wrap it up. I have a speculation on real estate, and hopefully we'll talk about real estate next week. But here's my speculation: interest rates went up, real estate prices went up because people weren't selling their houses. So there's no inventory, right? So people were buying. They're like, I just need a home. Around here, every house there's an open house, and then you put in your bids on Tuesday, and it sells on Tuesday. There's not a single house that doesn't go right away because there's no inventory, and people want to live here. What would happen if interest rates go down, mortgage rates go down to 3% again? I'll tell you what will happen. Every single house would hit the market, and we'd be flooded with it. And you know what would happen? House prices would drop. This is my speculation because if they didn't drop when interest rates go up, and I argued on the show that it's inverse relationship between interest rates and price, which is how it should operate. Everyone else said supply and demand. Okay, maybe I was wrong. If they're right, then what would happen with lower interest rates means that people would flood the market with inventory, house prices would crash, and that's how it would work. So that's my thesis. If I'm going along with their thesis and if I'm saying they're correct, then that would be the conclusion. If house prices keep going up, then neither one of us is right. So keep that in the back of your mind in the future shows. But anyway, Phil, final thoughts from you and take us home here.
So that's an interesting perspective because you would think that if interest prices fall, house prices should go up because your payments go down and they become more affordable. But you would have thought that when interest rates went up, house prices would fall, but then they argue that supply demand was the cause for them to continue going up because there just wasn't that much inventory because people that had these low mortgages didn't want to move. So it's really interesting to think about. And second order thinking is an important thing. It's always not just what you can see that's right in front of you. It's what else is there out there that you can't see. Because if you can start to figure that out, that's when you have a better chance of being successful as an investor. I'm Phil Weiss of Reprise Wealth Management. I know experiencing big life transitions can be stressful. My job is to help empower women facing new beginnings with the financial knowledge and tools they need to make self-assured decisions. At Apprise, we'd love to get to know you. You can visit our website, which is Apprise Wealth. That's APPRISE wealth.com. And if you add a /5 dash things to the end of it, you can download a free copy of 5 Things Every Woman Should Know About Finances. Thanks for having me on today, Kirk.
Great. Thanks for coming on, Phil. That's the show for this week. Thank you again for joining us on Money Tree Investing Podcast. My name's Kirk Chisholm, Wealth Manager of Innovative Advisor Group. We don't just manage your wealth, we make your life better. You can find more about me at innovativewealth.com. And of course, you can find me every week here on this show. You can also check out our show at Money Tree Investing Podcast. On our website, you'll have access to the show notes, resources, and the archive shows. Please remember to subscribe on our YouTube channel for immediate access to the new shows when they're released. When you subscribe to the show, it allows us to get access to some of the top minds of investing in personal finance. While you're here, please leave a comment and question if you want us to address it on the show. Have a great week ahead, and remember, no one will care about your money like you do, so invest in your life.